This is Jeff with the Neoteric Man, and this is episode 1B. So this is my letter that I wrote to myself, and this is going to be a little bit difficult, but in general, I'm kind of doing this as a little bit of a challenge to myself. Guess like being really vulnerable about these issues is really difficult for me. Part of that is that there's a lot of stuff that I discuss in this letter that anytime in the past I've tried to talk about it, I tend to get like shut up and shut down a lot. So there's a little bit of an audience here, and I think being able to get through this process and get through this process effectively is I got to be able to be comfortable like reading this and doing this and telling my story to, you know, with other people present, regardless of like who's present. So hope that makes sense, but I'll go ahead and start with my letter. So dear Jeff, this is going to be a hard conversation, but I think you might be in the right frame of mind to have it. This will be the second attempt at trying to write this letter, but I won't let it go any further than that, because chronic overthinking is destroying your life, and the bottom line is that you either act and risk failure, or you don't act and you're going to guarantee it. You're nearly 40. You can't afford your own place. You're divorced. You have a daughter out there somewhere you may never get to see, and the entire world is falling apart around you. And the worst part of this all, according to you, is that you don't have a soulmate. You don't have a soulmate, that twin flame or whatever. You've spent too much time bemoaning these things when there are some basic things that you have to come to understand about yourself in this juncture. And the primary thing that you know is that the more time that you spend working on yourself, the more that everything else will fall into place. You can't afford your own place. Well, who the hell can these days? Focus on work. Keep your resume and your LinkedIn updated. Let it be known what you bring to the table, and that you're open to the highest bidder. Get your bankruptcy done and get all the old bills out of the way. It's a pain in the ass, but you know what's going to be worse? Having old bills that you forgot about pop up and start garnishing your wages. Fuck. When your good friend was writing this, he talked about how he was having to stop to cry. Now, tears are something you're not afraid of. You'd rather break down and cry than to ever lose your temper. So it's sure, people have seen you get animated, people have seen you agitated, but no one outside of family and a few schoolyard bullies have ever seen you lose your temper. So now you're finally letting yourself feel it. You're pissed off. Seriously, like, you were talking earlier on social media about scoping guys out at a bar because you wanted to start a fight with them for being racist. That's not you, but it's good that you're letting yourself feel this. Maybe there will be tears in writing this, but really there's a whole lot of fuck yous to go around. If there's just one thing that you get out of this, it's to hopefully realize that you're a beast of a man, and the fact that people have made you feel so small your entire fucking life is embarrassing. You need to tell people to fuck themselves more often. You need to call out shitty behavior, and you have every right to get absolutely fucking pissed if people are disrespecting and disregarding you. You will stand up. You won't be afraid to take space. You will say, shut the fuck up, and if you interrupt again, I'll beat your ass. You will say, hey, fuck you, I was standing or sitting right here. I was having a fucking conversation with this person. No one asked for your goddamn fucking opinion. And when someone breaks your heart or takes advantage of you, you have the right, no, the moral obligation to tell them, no, you're a horrible fucking person and you can go fuck yourself. Jesus fuck, I can barely hold my phone right now, but it's all coming out. So let's start recently. You were all mopey and butthurt because you noticed that people that you thought were your friends unfriended you on Facebook. They were all part of the burlesque community. When you found these people, you had barely moved in with Glenn. You were finally somewhat safe. You found a community of artists and weirdos you can make friends with, make art with, and even date. But then your ex-wife and her boyfriend showed up. You should have confronted them. You should have told them to take a fucking hike because this was your scene and that you were here first. But you stepped aside. The mountain shrunk. You let them step over you. Your ex-wife being a victim is part of her identity. You know this was the real reason why you couldn't work things out with her. You still don't know what she said about you back then, or now, other than that despite years of shaming you for making less money than her, emotionally abusing and emasculating you because you went to school while she worked so that you could both qualify for Section 42 housing, if you were working instead, you wouldn't have been allowed to stay in the townhouse. But that didn't matter to her, though. There's been so many times where you said to yourself that you wish you would have been the one to land a good job so that she could have gone back to school instead, thinking somehow that would have kept the marriage from falling apart. She almost left you the first time when you injured your back. There were so many days where all you could do is lay on the floor in pain, and that bitch told you that you either had to find work or get your ass back to school, or she was going to kick you out and make you live with your parents. Your first big fuck you goes to your ex-wife. Fuck you and your refusal to do anything meaningful to address your codependency and your depression, and making being a victim and abuse survivor your entire identity. Fuck you. You fucking loved her to the end of the earth, and she threw you under the fucking bus. It wasn't enough she made you suffer financially, leaving you with nothing but the dogs and the divorce. But she to this day does all she can to smear your name and ruin your reputation. Now there's more fuck yous to her, but first let's address the more recent fuck yous. So you're setting things in motion. You're stepping up and becoming the leader you're supposed to be. Things are happening because you're organizing communities and bringing people together. Take a good solid look at what you've done for so many people lately, and then say fuck you to anyone who says that you're doing things wrong. Stay humble. Keep learning on ways to be a better leader and to better handle conflict, but don't let anyone tell you how to run the projects that you've set in motion to begin with. Now let's talk about dating for a second. You should be giving yourself a hand lately. All things considered, you've been taking big risks and they've had big payoffs. Sure, there have been things that haven't gone the way you would have liked, but you're making memories and meeting new people, and while there's nothing on the horizon that looks like it could be a potential soulmate, you're learning that you are desirable, and you don't have to settle for scraps, or beg anyone to treat you right. Fuck you to those right now that want to toy with you. You've got places to see and people to do. Fuck, bro, you told a girl the other day that if she wants to see you, she's going to have to get comfortable with scheduling something on the calendar. Since your last breakup, you've gone from being broken and depressed, to starting your own dating group, to taking a couple of booty calls, to now having to tell women that you'll consider penciling them in for a dick appointment. So no one gets to fuck with your heart anymore. So let's take a step back now. So the last breakup. It's like, fuck her, bro. You dodged a bullet in the end. You learned a little more about what it is you're actually looking for in a relationship, because she was sweet and affectionate. Unlike the two-year-long relationship you wasted too much time and energy on. You can look back fondly on the magic moments that were there, but allow yourself a little pride in this letter. You were the single biggest factor in those moments. More and more people call you the wizard because you bring the magic, and you should be fucking proud of yourself for giving her what she said were the most fun and creative dates she had been on when everything was shut down and everybody thought there was nothing better to do than Netflix and chill. What did she bring to the table other than being sweet and stroking your ego a bit? Save that fucking magic for someone who really deserves it. Sure, she broke your heart, and you got attached too damn fast, but you can see now how she would have not been good for your growth. You would have always been saving her from herself and picking up the slack with her children when life was just too much for her to handle. The worst part about getting attached to her kids, though. That's a hurt that'll keep hurting for a while. They deserve a lot better than what their parents are giving them right now. So now let's go back to that 2-year relationship. Seriously, fuck her, man. She's sitting in an apartment filled with all kinds of little treasures and mementos from the adventures you took her on, and what do you have to show for any of that? Sure, she provided some transportation, food and alcohol at times, but yet again, you were the one who was always doing all of the planning. You were buying the tickets, you were paying for the hotel rooms, etc. So don't ever fucking let yourself go down that path again. You seriously thought that once you moved in together that things were going to change? That she'd suddenly give a fuck about your time and your feelings? That she might start to like cuddling at least sometimes? Where did your 2 years with her get you? If they don't give a shit, don't give them the option to keep not giving a shit. If you're going to take people on crazy adventures, at least take someone who you know isn't going to be passed out drunk and too hungover to function the next day on a regular basis. Fuck her and her inability to be any kind of affectionate or vulnerable. Fuck her for her alcohol abuse and using you as an emotional punching bag because she couldn't hold in her anger when she got drunk. Fuck her for straight up wasting a good chunk of your life and never giving a fuck the entire time. Fuck her and fuck that dude she was always sneaky about messaging. You think she was loyal to you while she was traveling for business and whatnot and couldn't be bothered to send you a single text throughout the day? Let's be real here. Let yourself be good and pissed off about that. Seriously, fuck her. You knew what she was about, and you know that you can do better. So a brief fuck you to the one before that only lasted a couple of months. She at least had the courtesy to break things off when she knew that you were falling for her, and she was too fucked up for an actual relationship. You still went balls out, and you spoiled her as much as you could, and she still ate it up for a little while. She did you a favor by calling it off now, though. Once again, you wouldn't have been able to work on yourself. You would have been all about focusing on her issues. There's some other minor fuck yous that you could give to others that wasted your time, disrespected you, and so on. But before we get to the big ones, let's look at areas of your life that aren't tied to your love life where you should have stood up and allowed yourself to get angry. Fuck you to just about everybody at that car place you worked at. Fuck that toxic sales culture, and fuck the people that threw you under the bus for their commissions, and fuck the bosses that told you that you were stupid and worthless to your face. Fuck the company that you worked at and ate shit from for 4 years. They stole your ideas, had you help them build departments they wouldn't let you be a part of, and when you were finally in a position to be somewhat comfortable and make some real money, they laid you off. After all you did for them. Now keep this in mind with where you're at now. Fuck them too for not paying you what you're worth, and get your shit together and show loyalty only to whomever is going to pay you what you're actually worth. Fuck the shit roommates that you had that knew that you were hurting and trying to get your shit together, and did all they could to disrespect you and make you feel like all you could do is just survive one day to the next. Fuck all the so-called friends that turned their back on you, that never bothered to hear your side of the story before making up their minds to shun you. Fuck every institution and organization that takes advantage of dudes struggling to get back on their feet after a divorce. Seriously, fuck them. Now let's go back to your ex-wife. Seemingly so sweet and sensitive is how she ropes people in. She turns on tears, and who wouldn't believe her? Fuck her for that. But fuck her for doing all she can to make sure that you still suffer as much as possible, and making you feel like you were worthless and unlovable. You tricked yourself into thinking you were happy for so many years. But when you think about it, you're realizing you put up with as much as you put up with because you didn't think anybody else would ever love you. You now realize that when you hurt yourself, if it would have been permanent, she would have left your ass then. Don't marry again unless you know it's somebody that would stay by your side if you became disabled or got cancer or something like that. And that really fucking hurts. You need to stop the bleeding on that one and address it properly before considering moving in with anybody ever again. Fuck her and her family for being fucking miserable people that only liked you when you were doing something for them and were slowly poisoning the relationship the entire time because you didn't measure up to their superficial standards. And that because you had the balls to tell them to get fucked from time to time. It's like, you know they're the kind of assholes that would have been hoarding toilet paper and hand sanitizer when all the COVID stuff started happening. Fuck her for making you feel like you never did enough to contribute financially. You got laid off a few times. You hurt yourself. You got sick. But other than when you were trying to go through school full time, was there a time that you were out of work for more than a couple of months? 13 years of marriage, and she made you feel like you didn't do a damn thing the entire time to help, when neither of you would have accomplished anything without each other. Fuck her for making you the laughingstock and always throwing you under the bus as the dumb blundering husband who couldn't get anything right to save his life. Always making jokes at your expense at parties, and then making you feel like shit when you didn't want to make out with her or get it on in a dirty bathroom after she just browbeat you in front of all of your friends. Fuck her for all of her lies and her secrets. You still don't know half of what she tells other people about you because half of it is all stuff that she said that she was okay with at the time, and then later on changed her mind and decided to hold it against you. Yes, you lost your head in the game when it came to polyamory, and you were manipulated to death by a very toxic person who told you to keep secrets for them, and then painted you out to be the liar when you were just trying to cover up for the secrets that they wanted you to keep. Your ex-wife still throws you under the bus about that, but let's not forget she couldn't be bothered to tell you that she was having unprotected sex with random people till things didn't feel right and she thought that she might have caught an STI. Let's not forget that she's mad that you caught feelings for her best friend while she was out sleeping with all of yours. Let's not forget the fucking double standards when you got deep into the world of polyamory, and that being one of the main reasons why you can't do that dynamic again with anything that's going to be serious. Let's not forget that with all she tells others about you, and the tragic story of how she tried to hold on to a relationship with somebody that was emotionally abusive and that supposedly stopped loving her, You were the one who, not even a couple years into the marriage, were Googling how to tell if your wife doesn't love you anymore, and what to do if they don't. Hell, you spent 13 years with her. You still love her, but you wouldn't ever take her back. But we all know the problem was never that you stopped loving her, so seriously, fuck her for selling that narrative to anyone. Much more could be said here, but let's get on to some of the biggest fiery fuck yous of all. To the mother of your child, you might think that you're a bad, untouchable bitch, but you're not half the bitch that karma is, and everything you put out there is going to come back to you 10 times over. Oh, she was able to size you up, see what you weren't getting from your other relationships and from your wife at that time, and she would butter you up only to tear you back down again. That's what they call love bombing. Anytime you tried to address anything that was concerning to you, you then wound up having to apologize for the way that you felt, and would find yourself in tears begging her to forgive you. That's called gaslighting. She couldn't tell the truth about herself at all, saying that she had her shit together and couldn't be with anybody who didn't, yet she was the most mentally and physically unhealthy person that you've ever been with. She couldn't be honest about anything to save her life. She had an overly inflated opinion of herself, she lacked any kind of empathy whatsoever, and she got off on the fact that she had hurt and destroyed people. No surprise now that when she got pregnant, she said that she had what she wanted, and she did all she could do to tear you down, and drove you to the brink of trying to commit suicide. And when your therapist told you that you showed all the behaviors of being codependent, and that if you hit 5 of the 8 warning signs, that they could say that you'd been the victim of narcissistic personality disorder abuse, it was a punch in the gut when they said you hit all 8. You lost everything trying to make that woman happy, but it was never enough. Why the fuck did you let her do it? Because of the promise of giving you a family? Let's be honest, this age is not the time to be starting a family. There are people that are your age that are grandparents now. Your baby's mama talked you out of getting a vasectomy and in return gave you the biggest gushing wound that's going to continue to bleed. Don't let anybody else have that opportunity. Go back and get that vasectomy done. Schedule that this upcoming week. Finishing what you started there will be a major step in being able to take back your power from that woman. As far as your daughter goes, you know that's going to be something that you have to push for every day to get ready for. Your attorney was right. You're at a stalemate right now, and you're going to have to eat shit for the time being. He's also right that even if you had all the money in the world, it wouldn't help you because you got tangled up with a woman that isn't above hurting your own child to get back at you. It hurts not knowing where they even are now, but you can see you're healing, you're building. And she's been burning bridges and hurting people more and more every corner that she turns. It's a tough pill to swallow, but you know the score. Your attorney knew the score. Several psychics that you've talked to know the score. You're not seeing your daughter till she's old enough to not be influenced by her mom anymore. Make sure you have your shit together to be able to open your arms and your home to her whenever that's able to happen. Know that she'll be angry. She'll have been told all kinds of rotten things about you and will want answers. But if you are put together, peaceful, and can be a good example, then that enough will be all you have to do for her to realize the truth about you. And feeling like you constantly have to go to the end of the world to prove that you're not the monster that her mom would have told her that you are. Trust that this will just be enough. Now on to probably the most painful fuck yous. And this is where a lot of the anger starts to turn into tears. So your mom has passed on. Your dad is struggling to gain some kind of a normal life back after major brain surgery. You love your parents, but they still did things that messed you up. Sure, everyone has a fucked up childhood, but still, fuck your parents for the rotten shit they pulled. One of your earliest childhood memories was at 2 years old, when your dad left the front door open. And so you wandered off. The trust was broken that day when you returned. You still remember it was an orange and yellow and off-white soup ladle that your mom beat you with. That marked how all love would turn out in your life. She swooped you up. You thought you were safe in her arms. And then you got the shit beaten out of your backside. The trust was broken at that time, and you'd be spending the rest of your life trying to fill that hole, to find that connection and that trust that you should have been able to have with your mom. She always said that you were so sneaky and so independent. It was a survival method because of how controlling she was. And that there always had to be some kind of distance. There always had to be a disconnect. And you were never able to be vulnerable or able to fully trust her. Your dad, well, we all know that your dad has Asperger's. Or, I guess they don't really use that term anymore, but when you use that term, people know exactly where on the spectrum somebody is. He doesn't do emotional support. He never really had any friends growing up. He was very physically abusive. And you buried your anger because you didn't want to end up like him, nor your brother, who have both been through court-ordered anger management, and have been afoul of the law more than once because they can't keep their shit together. You were always the peacemaker in the house, but you were able to do that by being secretive and closed off. Your dad taught you many practical skills, but when it came down how to really be a man, he didn't have the capability to teach you what you needed to know. Your parents didn't teach you how to handle your emotions. They didn't teach you how to handle conflict effectively. They didn't teach you what was appropriate when it came to dating or relationships at all. You had to learn all of the emotional stuff on your own later on in life. And apologies are owed to your ex-wife in that department. You can't pretend that you were an angel, and a marriage should not be testing grounds for figuring out how to function emotionally. Also, you need to give credit to your dad. When your niece was born, that was a huge moment when you caught him in tears. When he was able to admit that he was a shitty father, and didn't know that there was anything that he could do to make it right, but he was at least going to make sure that he was the best grandfather possible. It fucking sucks, though. Your mom has been gone for a little over 6 months. You know it was finally the end when in the last months she was alive. That was the only time that you could have real conversations with her. That was the only time in which she really wanted to hear where you were coming from and wanted to try to understand rather than trying to tell you how you should feel or think. It's fucking painful. You love your mom to death, and now she's gone, and there are things you'll never get closure on. Trying to figure out any kind of an identity was entirely stunted, as she had to have control over everything. Failure to fall in line could mean days of prolonged emotional and physical abuse. Hell, as a teenager, you frequently said that you'd rather just take a beating from your dad and get it over with than to be verbally broken down for hours upon hours. Physical bruises heal a lot faster than the bruises on the inside do. We really don't have the room to list every misstep and every traumatic event from growing up that turned you into who you are now, but realize that you will have to relive each one of those events in order to fully heal and to step up and to become the man that you're supposed to be. Moreover, you need to not be afraid of your anger. Realize that all emotions serve a purpose and need to be addressed. In the past, you've internalized your anger, and your default response when it came to the surface was just to run. Remember that church dance when your brother tried to start a fist fight with you in front of everyone? Oh yeah, he needs a mighty fuck you, but look at where he's at now. He's a complete fucking mess with no control over his life, still losing his shit while playing video games all day long, while his wife wastes all of their money and drives them into further debt for stupid shit. Still, your default reaction when you felt like you were going to lose your shit was just to bolt. You knocked over people running out of that crowded room, but you weren't in control. As a kid, you didn't have the capability to ask what you could have done to de-escalate the situation. When fight or flight kicked in, you always chose flight. There's a shirt hanging in your closet from what started as an attempt to save your failing marriage. You were over 400 pounds. You had a crippling back injury that hurt every day. You had no sex drive, and you were a cranky bastard. You never lost your temper, but you were cranky all the time. They put you on an extreme amount of testosterone to build you back up from practically zero. It saved your life, but likely cost you your marriage. Your ex-wife internalized everything. First, you didn't like her because you had no sex drive, and that meant that she was ugly. But then you were too aggressive, and she couldn't keep up in the bedroom, and she internalized that because she could no longer keep you satisfied. That primal charge that high you were on admitted it felt good. For a little while, all you really cared about were the 3 Fs: food, fucking, and fighting. You further internalized your anger, though, as your crankiness became aggressive, and you were flat out mean at times, but at least you were standing up to your ex and demanding accountability from her. She chose to further internalize her issues and became resentful towards you. Where would the two of you be now if both of you could have been completely honest with each other? If you could have both taken criticism without shutting down, and you both could have taken accountability? You largely don't care what she's doing with her life now, but when word gets back to you from that people tell you she's not happy, doesn't know how to be happy, and that a large part there is that she still won't take any accountability for her emotions and her behavior. You will, though, and you're going to take that anger and you're going to use it constructively. You're going to face those childhood traumas and the traumas from your relationships, and you're going to set better boundaries. You're going to demand accountability and not stick around anywhere where you're not respected. You joined an MMA gym for a little while when you were adjusting to all the newfound testosterone. Put that back on your list of things that you want to get back to. You enjoyed doing that. The weird thing was how much you enjoyed just seeing how much you could take and still get up when you'd get knocked down. You enjoyed being tested and being pushed to the limit to succeed. That's the fucking person that you are truly meant to be. The shirt in your closet has fight or flight written on it, and then flight is crossed out saying there is only one option. Well, there is only one option. Fight and break the cycles. Or keep running and you'll keep coming back to the lack of respect, the dishonesty, the settling for less than you deserve. Stand up and fucking fight. Your life and your future depend on it. Love and respect from yourself. That's not easy. That's not fucking easy at all. But that's my story. And that's where I'm at.